And I'm going to cast my screen and we'll be off and running. So welcome everybody. Good morning. Thanks for being here this morning. Mr. Barros, because I can see you. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Okay, I got a message from someone that they couldn't hear me, but that might be on their end, not mine, because my microphone seems to be functioning. So I'm going to run through a couple of things about our planned reopening. By reopening, I mean bringing everybody back. We're excited, a little anxious, and hopefully clear. For some reason, the message is saying it's full. Am I limited to the number of people I can have in a meeting? I shouldn't be, but if I am, it's saying at 300, I'm out. So, you know, could I ask the staff members who are here, who have a group of students, to maybe just have one person? And if there are other staff members who are here, you're going to be seeing basically the same thing in an hour. Maybe have you guys hop off, except for Miss Klosterman, who's playing. No offense, I'd love for you to be here, but I'd just rather get more students in. If I'm capped at 300. So if I'm capped at 300, I will send this out to anybody who's not here. And I'm going to try and be quick. So thank you, everybody. Okay. Hold on one second. I'm just going to send a quick message out. Yes, I'm getting messaged all over the place, so I'm going to just let people know that, and I'll do another one of these. Just give me 1 second, and I'm sorry for those of you. 2023, 2024, and 2025 meeting this morning. Apparently, my account caps at 300. You're all going to see me emailing real time. I will hold another one of these at 10:45. Let's do 10. Do I have 10:45 open? I'm going to have to make 10:45 open. Yep, we're going to have to do 10:45. At 10:45 for those who couldn't get in. All right, so let's rock and roll here. Here's a look at our schedule for the next few weeks. And sorry for the technical issues and the delay this morning. And our schedule is that we would be back the week of Monday, April 5th. So we're a couple of weeks away from that. And I'm sharing this because since the beginning of the year, Mr. DeMeglio and I think the staff in general have tried to do things in like small chunks. When we first came back to school, it was okay, let's get to Columbus Day. After Columbus Day, it was okay, see if we can get to Veterans Day, and then Thanksgiving, and then the holiday break, and so on and so forth. So if you look at the rest of the year, we're looking at, we come back the week of April 5th, we'll have 2 weeks, and then we go on April vacation. We have a couple of weeks, and then we have a half day of school. A couple of weeks after that, we have graduation, and then a couple of weeks after graduation, we're out of school. So we have at least some milestones ahead of us. We're going to talk about some of these dates and how they impact, in particular, some of the upperclassmen and, you know, the rest of the school as well. We're also going to share a little bit of our plans for that first week, which we'll be finalizing in the next couple of days. Starting the week of April 5th, every student will be in school Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 1:55 if they're electing to be in school. There's no hybrid. There's no, couple of days. There's no, you're coming in, you're only coming in for a couple hours. And Wednesday is also a full day. And I'll talk a little bit more about how we're planning to work Wednesdays. Because I know that there have been a lot of students who have shared with me that they like the flexibility of Wednesday. And we want to still have some of that, even if it's not going to be done away from the building. For students who elect to stay remote, the schedule is also going to be 7:30 to 1:55. Wednesday is still a full day of school for them as well. And that idea of asynchronous learning that has happened in the past, where it's, you don't have any contact with the teacher and you're just given an assignment for the day. That's a thing of the past. There's a difference between asynchronous learning and being asked to work independently. And we'll be trying to do that in concert with whatever's happening in the building for those who are remote. And we'll share a little bit more about that in a minute. We are looking at going back to what our schedule used to be. The 6 classes meeting daily, 1 drops. I understand for those of you who are in 8th grade, you've never had this schedule. For the rest of the building, your friends and peers who are upperclassmen will be able to share with you that the schedule is fairly easy to follow. But looking at the Wednesday, one of the directions that I've been thinking about giving and talking with the teachers about is still using that day as opportunities to catch up, extra help, meeting with counselors, and not necessarily having it be all new instruction every single week, and giving opportunities for students to have time to breathe, to catch up, and to be able to move with a little bit more, for lack of a better word, flexibility. Because we know the Wednesday has been helpful for a lot of kids. That said, there'll be some teachers who are going to need to get through some things, and that still provides them with that opportunity as well. In each day, there's time built in for passing to class. There's time built in, obviously, for class time, and we're not going to change the way our schedule works for mask breaks. We feel like mask breaks, if you think back to when we used to have a more traditional flex block, having that opportunity, get outside, the weather's going to be nice, to still have that time in the day, a little bit more low key than necessarily just sitting in class for 50, 60, 70 minutes at a time. So when we look at our schedule, the class times, if you look at the way the times are structured, and I'll talk about lunch in a minute, most of the classes are around the same time. One of the reasons why the classes at the end of the day are a little shorter are because, I understand, and this is talking to students, that by the time you get to the end of the day, you might be a little tired and things might be a little more challenging. So we think it would be making the most sense if we're going to have time where students are a little bit less class time would be at the end of the day, not the beginning. And so our class time, specifically that last block, will be the shortest one of the day, because I know that, for the most part, the afternoons have gone pretty quickly here, but I also know coming back to school, I'm expecting there to be a fatigue factor. You'll see the lunch block is pretty long. It's because we're going to 5 lunches, not 4. And that means that block will be about 85, 88 minutes of class, and between 22 to 25 minutes for lunch. And for seniors, there'll be some incentives in there as well. More on that in a second. Arrival and dismissal is staying exactly as it is right now. So where you enter, how you get dropped off, if you're dropped off because you don't take the bus, how the buses let you in, 7:20, and then right to first period class. Dismissal is going to have to be a little bit different, and we have to work with our bus company The single most important thing we have to do in dismissal this year more than ever is get the buses out first. The buses have to leave first because their routes are a little bit longer. And because they're a little bit longer, we can't have them delayed to getting to Taft. A lot of our buses do a second run at Taft. And if they're late getting to Taft, there's big issues with the little kids. So students who ride the bus, you're going to be leaving first. And the way dismissal is going to work is around 1:50 or so. So again, a few minutes earlier, students who are on buses, and we have the list of everybody who's on a bus, you're going to get on the bus and you're going to go. And then after that, 1:55, we'll send everybody else out. For those of you who are getting picked up, your pickup spot is going to be basically the same as the drop-off spot, not the front of the building. And we're using the same pattern as drop-off. We're trying to keep the front of the building pretty well clear. And we know there'll be a lot of people who are going to be staying for sports, be it the end of this fall 2 season or the start of the spring season. And we're going to talk about that in a moment as well. And if you are not sure about busing, there'll be we shared with the parents last night. If you've registered for busing or you haven't, there is a person at central office, Mr. Young, who coordinates all of the transportation. You're going to want to make sure that you touch base with her about busing because it's all handled there. And we shared that information with parents last night. In the building, we're kind of going in order here. So we've done arrival, we sort of did dismissal, but we did arrival. You come in the building, masks are still on. We're trying to make sure that desks and students still stay 6 feet apart where we can. Some of the rooms are going to be smaller than that. The distance is going to be shorter. You guys have been awesome. To be honest, I have been singing the praises of our students all year long. I wish we could have brought people back sooner, to be honest, because the students have done such an awesome job of helping us with whether it's, just getting in and out of the building quickly, whether it's, helping us clean and sanitize areas of the building, staying out of the main office, taking care of things that got to get dropped off, and communicating with Mrs. Schiller if they're not feeling well or having parents call if there's a situation, somebody's positive with COVID-19, somebody's not. To be honest, my biggest regret in all of this is I feel, and Mr. DeMeglio and I have said this, that we don't know you guys as well this year because there haven't been as many people in the building on a day-to-day basis. So as far as the safety procedures, we don't imagine there being any issues. This was word for word what we shared with the parents last night. We don't expect there to be any issues. So the way the day will work, you'll come in, you'll go to class, you'll follow the schedule, and then 1:50, 1:55 will be dismissal, just like the old days. So when we talk about the distancing in class, I'm going to hit this home a little bit just for a second. If the class has 17 or 18 kids in it, the desks can still be 6 feet apart. If we move to 5 feet, we could fit up to, for most classes, 24, 25, 26 students. The issue becomes if we have to contact trace because somebody was, positive or somebody tests positive a couple days after they were in school. The CDC, even though you've probably seen there's been some recommendations about 3 feet, the CDC is recommending 3 feet. The Mass Department of Public Health is not changed the 6-foot radius. So if you're in a class and there's 24 people and you happen to be 5 feet apart from people in that room, you would be considered a close contact. And I know that stinks. If that changes, we'll certainly change with it. The good news is there aren't a lot of classes of 25 or 26. Most of our classes have 18 to 20, and we know there'll be some students who stay remote. And we know there'll be some students who aren't in on a typical day. But those are the numbers we're working with. So that brings us to lunch. You've come in, you've gone to class. We're allowing students to eat in a couple of different places. So we have about 35, 36 seats in the cafeteria. We have another 100 or so that are available in the gym. And we're letting students eat outside the area in the back of the gym. So, we're ordering some tables, but the suggestion I have had is, bring your beach towel and hang out in the back. Students are supposed to be 6 feet apart and face the same direction during lunchtime if indoors. If you're outdoors and you're 6 feet apart, it's I think it's a little bit more flexibility there. Lunch and breakfast are free. And the gym bleachers, we have it spaced out pretty well. And I know people say, well, what if we have gym class and it's raining out? We've got that covered. So don't worry about that. For seniors, the senior privilege, the internship blocks, the early college classes, we try to give you a lot of flexibility with those. We're going to add that to lunch. So where the lunch block runs from like 10:30 to 12:15, 12:20 every day. If you have your privilege block during that block, you can leave and come back. If you're not 18, we're going to make sure we have parent permission on the senior privilege contract. And if you start cutting class to do that, that's going to be a problem. So we were sharing this morning about how awesome our seniors have really been through everything this year. It's not much, but if you have that block free and you want to go and you want to come back, or quite honestly, we know this happens where classes start to taper off, and it's a review, and you've talked to the teacher, and we're going to treat it a lot more collegiately, and give you the flexibility to do what it is that you need to do. We're hoping that you don't cut class and end up missing like a test that ends up compromising. You get an F in a class, that would not look good. So work with us on this. We want to give you the I guess the latitude to be adults and to do the right thing. If you leave and come back, obviously, lunch is free here. You may just want to run home, do your schoolwork there. You may want to go out for lunch one day a week, whatever it may be. We're giving you that flexibility. There isn't going to be a lot of a la carte. Lunch is going to be, prepackaged and hot, but there aren't going to be a lot of a la carte items, at least not in the beginning. But if you do want something that perhaps the food service is selling, like if they're selling bags of chips or cookies or brownies or something like that, you'd have to come back through the line, because that first pass through the line is going to be just distributing lunches. We're asking if you need water. We're investigating putting in another water filling station. We do have the one, but the jug that had existed, for those of you who remember the cooler that was out in the middle of the cafeteria for people to fill water, that won't be there. So if you bring a water bottle, we have the water filling station, and we're going to try and install a second one quickly. And if there's no cash, so if you need to buy something from the cafeteria for some reason after we reopen that, you need to either have a check on file or put money in the account. Unlike the other schools, this was more for the parents. We're not changing your schedules, so you don't have to worry about that. Your classes are still going to be your classes. Your teachers are still going to be your teachers. I know in some cases you're probably saying, oh man, that stinks. I wouldn't mind having a different teacher, but sorry, we're not making any changes. With respect to absences, and this is also kind of a change. If you're supposed to be here and you're not, you're marked absent. If you're supposed to be remote and you don't show up for class, you'll be marked absent. If you happen to be in the COVID protocol, you're symptomatic, you don't feel well, you can't just wake up in the morning and say, I'll just be remote today. I don't really feel like going in, I'll be remote. If you're an in-person student, the expectation is going to be here. for you to be here. If you have to stay home because you're sick, because you're not well, because we will have you go through the nurse, through me, through Mr. DeMeglio, and we'll give you permission as to whether you can log in remotely. Because we're trying to, again, incentivize, if you're in person, you're in person. You're expected to log in at 7:30 if you are remote, and the school day is going, right until its end. I think right now it technically goes till 2:05, but we're going to be ending around, like I said, between 1:50 and 1:55. This is the part of this that might be subject to change. In the first week, we are going to have an asynchronous day. It may very well be April 5th, not April 7th. And we are going to let everyone know that next week. And by an asynchronous day, I mean the last day where your teachers are going to give you assignments to work on completely by yourself, because we're going to be setting up the building. What we're not sure if what we need to do is whether we need to do that ahead of having students in, or if we want to have students in for a couple of days and then have a day where you're essentially working at home by yourself. There is not going to be multiple ones of those days. And you'll see once we get to April 10th, it's the regular schedule, days 1 through 5, and we're just kind of rolling along. If it's an asynchronous day, you're home. There's nobody, if it's an asynchronous day, there's nobody coming into the building except the staff. So we will communicate that as soon as possible. I should be able to make a decision on that in the next day or so. In terms of athletics, for those of you who are on a team and the school day ends at 1:55, you'll be able to stay. You're not leaving and then just coming right back. Locker rooms were just cleared for reopening, but we have to get our procedure for that approved through the Board of Health. We're only allowed 50% capacity of our locker rooms. So that means, changing in shifts and all kinds of other fun stuff. But we are not expecting that student athletes will have to go home and then come back. We just have to work on a protocol for locker rooms that we'll be sharing with coaches hopefully in the next few days. The Board of Health hasn't given us any guidance on that. For the seniors, and we'll meet it as a senior class probably next week or the week after. I literally just got guidance on graduation on Monday. There is supposed to be guidance on prom coming next week. The only thing the commissioner said in one of his meetings this week was that kick prom as far as you can down the road. We don't want to have prom after graduation. We are moving forward with prom on May 14th. According to the state right now, indoor venues are capped at 100 people, which limits us to having only the seniors and no guests. Although that may change. And if it changes in April and we're able to change with the venue, we will change with the venue. I'm going to be putting something together with the commissioner's office because we're actually one of the schools that has the ability to be very close to being able to host something. Some of my colleagues are principals of schools that have 400 kids and they can't really do anything. As far as graduation, it was moved to Saturday the 5th. We are looking at doing Saturday the 5th at 10 a.m. Our second call, if the weather is bad, the morning of the 5th, would be to do it in the evening on the 5th to try and eliminate any conflict with Sunday afternoon when things could be warmer. If the weekend is a complete wash, we'll look to reschedule before we'll try and do something like a drive up where you come by, you grab your diploma and you go, like a lot of schools did last year. We're really committed to doing it outside. We're committed to doing it as best we can on the turf. We just don't want it to be 150 degrees on the turf. And we also want graduation to be special. The state's guidance on it has been keep them short, which I think all the students will appreciate, and we're gonna honor that. We'll have more details on that. It is looking like the last day of classes for seniors will be May 21st, with the week of the 24th through the 28th being the what we traditionally called senior exam week, even though you guys don't really have exams. I have to look legally as to how early I can let you out. I have, if I could, I would do the 14th. If I can't, it will be the 21st. If I can't do the 21st, I will find a way to, let's just say, I'll find a way to make sure that the 24th through the 28th look like school days, even though they're not necessarily true school days for you, so that you have a couple of weeks before graduation. The week of graduation, we'll probably do a rehearsal somewhere on like June 2nd, so we can distribute caps and gowns. We have not finalized what the awards night's going to look like yet. Again, waiting on some guidance. There were a couple questions just for the good of the order that I'm going to share. There was a question about whether gym classes, locker rooms are going to be available yet. We don't know the answer to that quite yet. Just going to stop the share. And we also, I think I asked the question about, answered the question about after school activities. And I think I answered the question about busing. Again, if you have a concern about the busing, Ms. DeYoung at central office is the person for your parents to call. If I had answers for you on busing, I would gladly give them. I'm just going to cycle through the chat function. Doesn't look like there's any other questions in the chat. Are there any other questions for the chat that I should that anybody wants to throw out there? I know a few of you have students in the, oh, good question. Are you going to have MCAS? The answer is we don't know for grade 8 if there's going to be MCAS. There will be something for grades 9, 10, and 11. We just haven't gotten the dates on it. As far as, oh, good, now the questions are coming in fast and furious. Love it. We're going to get guidance on those dates. Grades 10 and 11, we're being told they're going to have to take English and math. Grade 9 is going to have to take science, but we're not 100% sure. Will remote be an option next year? We are being told probably not. The commissioner wants everybody back. I think it's a little short-sighted. I think there are some students who have done very well with remote learning, but we want to make sure we do so purposefully. We will not have answers on next year until, my guess is, July or August. When can we use lockers? Good question. Right now, the state has told us still no locker use, but we have a procedure in place for whenever we're given the green light for how lockers can be used. How many student cases would close the school? It'd be really hard to close the school. The commissioner has given us the guidance that the superintendent would work in concert with our Board of Health to identify any kind of spread. If we had a situation where we had a cluster that's defined as a certain number by percentage, we would have the Board of Health give us that direction to close school. My experience with schools that have had clusters, Swampscott, for example, closed this week. There was a party. There were 100 kids there. There were about 10 kids afterwards who tested positive. Those 100 kids became close contacts. And the next thing you know, a school of 500 has 250 kids wiped out. That's not good. So hopefully we avoid situations like that. Will after school clubs be allowed? Yes. Again, provided that there's appropriate, safety measures, distancing and all of that taken into place. Will you be able to choose where you sit in class? That'll be on a teacher by teacher basis, but my guess is the teachers are going to work on having assigned seating, specifically because when the class gets up around that 20 22, 23, 24, 5 mark, we need to worry about contact tracing. Will there be finals? Haven't talked about that with our leadership team or our staff yet. They know where I stand on final exams, and I'm not a huge fan of them. So you may be seeing those on a maybe more limited basis. Lunch break for remote students. So lunch break for remote students will be when that class has lunch, you'll have lunch. So for example, if social studies has first lunch and you have social studies that period, that's when you'll have your lunch break. And I hope that answers that question. For those of you who've been remote, haven't met teachers, don't know where anything is, we will work with you on finding your way around the building. We're really going to treat that first week of school like it's the first week of school in September. It's going to take some time. People are always out in the hall. Upperclassmen have been traditionally great about helping people where to go, asking teachers at the end of class, and quite honestly, take some time in the next week or so to come in and follow your schedule, and we're happy to show folks around. I will send out a copy of the schedule, and May 21st, there's nothing on May 21st. That's the seniors' last day in all likelihood. For example, will we be able to stay after school? Again, yes. Again, on advisement with the staff members. How sports work for fully remote students, you come after school. You'd have to get a ride here. Are you going to have to wear masks next year? Don't know yet. Just trying to get to lunch today. My guess is maybe or maybe not. Last year's system about lunches or not. Yeah, it'll be so like the way lunch is going to work is, like social studies. I'm usually, if you have social studies during A block, or let's say it's day one, D block goes to lunch. If you have social studies during D block and they have first lunch, you would go to lunch with social studies. If you have science and they have last lunch, you would go to class, and then the teacher would dismiss for lunch. I'm sorry, I kind of took for granted that everybody may understand how lunch works. We will let you know those first couple of days which classes have which lunch, and we're going to release the lunch schedule ideally next week. We're just working on some numbers. Music and band, Mrs. Penz is due to come back, we hope in April, and we're working on making sure that works. Is any other club that's not a sport canceled? No, all of our clubs are able to run. There was a question earlier about elaborating on Wednesdays. So the way we're hoping Wednesday will work, it's going to run through the schedule just like any other day. Students will still filter through their schedule, but we're trying to have that be a good time for students to catch up and work with their teachers on things that get made up, enrichment, not necessarily a day-to-day, new instruction every single Wednesday. Giving teachers some flexibility. We do want to have some time, advisory block, and giving folks time to just catch their breath. There are still 54 new messages, so I can't promise I'm going to get through every single one of the questions, but I'm going to do my best. I don't know about when the buses will arrive, if they're going to arrive earlier. I will find out. And if you are not already on buses, again, any questions about busing, have your parents call Mr. Young. If you had registered for busing, but you've not used it, you will have a seat reserved. If you have not registered for busing, I can't promise that, is the word on the street. Yep, before and after school for extra help with a teacher. Before school's a little tougher. After school, not a problem. Can you participate in clubs and sports if remote? Yes. Can you go anywhere in the building to eat? No. You cannot go lunch. You can eat in the cafeteria, the gym, or outside in the back. A close contact is defined as inside 6 feet or fewer for 15 minutes or more. So it may not be just the people you're sitting next to. We generally, the person you're sitting next to may be more than 6 feet away. But that's the state's definition. So are you going to get new seats in class? Possibly, particularly because there'll be more students in class. Will we be having gym? Yes. Phys ed classes are mostly meeting outdoors as it is. And the, you know what, I'm gonna, some of these questions are getting really redundant. So and I've answered some of them. For example, I've answered the extra help. You cannot come into the building until 7:20. The hallways will not be 6 feet apart, but you're not in the hallways for 15 minutes at a time. Do you have to eat lunch? You don't have to eat lunch, but you can certainly, I would hope you eat lunch. It's a long day. Are the full remote teachers coming back? It's a matter of personnel. Can't talk about that. What time would spring season practices be? Baseball, we don't have a spring schedule yet. We're still only 3 weeks into the fall. With flex no longer, flex is still part of the schedule. That mask break time is essentially flex break time. So we are still gonna have that built in and also use Wednesday. Will there still be classes in the auditorium? It really depends on the full remote teachers. These are questions I don't necessarily have the answers to. If you have not filled out the form, we'll be calling. We'll be calling folks. We've asked parents to fill out that form by Friday. Extra help when school is out. We've already talked about how will remote students know what day it is. Well, we'll be sending out the schedule, same as we are, but you know, once you know the first day of the schedule, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, you can kind of follow along, because there's not going to be any repeats of the days like there is now. This is a good question about decisions being final for remote students. For students who are remote, if you are remote and you then decide you want to come back in, maybe you got vaccinated, maybe you feel better about it. That's a request that gets made to me and to Mr. DeMeglio. We'll work with you. We can't make any guarantees. If it's raining, will lunch be limited to cafeteria in the gym, or will the classroom you're in be available? We're not eating in classrooms. It's cafeteria, it's gym, has to do with sanitation and pest management. It's a long story. So no, we're not eating in classrooms. And that's, I think that's about it. The form was emailed home to parents last night. I could send it out to the staff to share with people. That was a lot of questions in a short period of time, and I'm a little out of breath. So I am going to just end by saying that if you don't want to eat lunch, can you stay in the classroom? Probably not, because the teachers are going to go to lunch, and they're not necessarily going to be staying in their classrooms. And if they're going to be eating, so one question that has come up about class registration for next year courses, counselors will be in touch about that. No worries on that end. And that's about it for me. I've talked for a long time. I'm gonna sign off. You'll probably have to replay all these rapid fire questions. The questions about remote teachers, we will do our best to make those things work, and we'll have hopefully some answers for you on that very soon. All right, I'm going to say goodnight, or a good rest of your day. It's going to be another nice one out there, so enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Have a good day.
Have a good one.